Morning, Kahal Kadosh. Erev Shabbat Kodesh, Perashat Vayeshev, Makam Nahawand. The 22nd day of Kislev, the 20th day of December 2019. Be'ezat Hashem, this coming Sunday evening, we're going to be celebrating the first night of Hanukkah. I'll try to throw in a couple of Hanukkah ideas in today's class. Otherwise, Sunday morning, Be'ezat Hashem, we'll review the essential halachot relevant to the celebration of Hanukkah, which is definitely, although Hanukkah is 1 week out of the year, but the message of Hanukkah is the secret of the survival of Am Israel throughout these generations of our existence. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Shehakol Nihiya Bidbaro. Beautiful. Thank you for the hot water. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, Rabotai, being Friday today, the Zohar gives us beautiful messages about the beautiful day of Shabbat Kodesh. Although Shabbat, it is something that has been in existence since the beginning of the creation of the world and mankind, but every week we come to this opportunity to renew our connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Zohar HaKadosh begins, and the Pasuk says, Bekarata la Shabbat oneg. You will call the day of Shabbat a day of enjoyment, a day of pleasure. Ask the Zohar HaKadosh, what is the meaning of calling the Shabbat? What do? You pick up the phone and you call Shabbat? Almost there. The Zohar HaKadosh says, invite the Shabbat to come to your home. How do you invite the Shabbat to come to your home? The Zohar HaKadosh writes, the preparations that a person does at home in honor of Shabbat Kodesh. As the Pasuk says, Mikra'e Kodesh, Elehem Mo'adam, the concept of the Jewish holidays as well. The Zohar HaKadosh brings a beautiful example. Kema de mazminu shpiza lebeteh. You want to understand what is the essence of Shabbat? Imagine yourself, you are welcoming a guest to your home. What you're going to do, you welcome a guest to your home, you're going to act differently. You're going to make sure the house is clean. You're going to make sure the table is set. You're going to make sure that you have better food than usual, even though you may eat in good, but when a guest comes, you like a bit more formal, correct? The Zohar HaKadosh says this is exactly what happens in the day of Shabbat Kodesh. And the Zohar HaKadosh asks, and it says, how do I show my goodwill in welcoming the Shabbat? The Zohar HaKadosh says, Shulchan Aruch. The table is set. Although the usual word of Shulchan Aruch means the code of Jewish law, that's the meaning of the title of the book, of the foundation of Halacha, but nevertheless, in this case, it means literally a table that is set up in honor of Shabbat. Usually when it comes to Shabbat, people eat in the Shabbat dining table instead of in the kitchen. People use china, or people use nice dishes instead of disposable or simple ones. And obviously, you make the kiddush, you make the hamosi, you make the seudah, whatever beautiful things everybody celebrates in honor of Shabbat. That's number one. Number two, the Zohar HaKadosh says, Bebayit muchan karaui. A home that is Shabbat friendly. What does it mean that the home is Shabbat friendly? Many answers. Number one, a clean home, which I'm sure everybody has a clean home. But there is a difference when you clean the home on a Tuesday or Wednesday, or when you clean the home on a Friday, Lichvot Shabbat. You know, number two. Number three, B'ma'achal u'b'mishteh meshubahim. Eating better than usual. And it is true. I believe that in any of our homes, that Baruch Hashem, we welcome the Shabbat and we celebrate the Shabbat. On Shabbat, you have a nicer meal. Sometimes, people have a whole course. You have fish, and you have salads, and you have soup, and you have a chicken or beef, whatever. All this is part of the ceremonial honoring of the Shabbat. And it says, the Zohar HaKadosh, Yoter mikol she'ar yemot ha'chol. It says, whatever you do during the week, it's fine for the weekday. When it comes to Shabbat, do something extra in honor of Shabbat. And I know that so far we're not saying any Hiddushim. We're not saying nothing that we don't know. But this is the menu of the day. The Zohar HaKadosh says one of the kavanot or Mehillah, one of the requirements that is important for Shabbat, the Pasuk says, Mi be'od yom. Mi be'od yom is a halachic term that tells me you be the one that welcomes the Shabbat ahead of time. What does it mean? Don't wait to receive the Shabbat when the Shabbat arrives. You be ready to welcome the Shabbat before the Shabbat arrives. What does it mean? I think the simple explanation, what the Zohar HaKadosh says, is that Friday afternoon is not Thursday afternoon, or it's not Tuesday afternoon. Friday afternoon, it means the time that we say goodbye to the work, goodbye to the business, and we come home to welcome the Shabbat on time. And I'm sure that without any hesitation I can say this, that we all look forward when it comes to the day of Shabbat. For me, Shabbat sometimes is too short. And Shabbat is a super busy day for me. But I think that the happiness and the holiness and the tranquility and the harmony that the Shabbat brings, it's something that sometimes it cannot be achieved throughout the week. So the Zohar HaKadosh says, Likdosh Hashem mechubad. It says, you know why we need to welcome the Shabbat before the Shabbat welcomes us? Because by honoring the Shabbat, we are honoring HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's not like I'm doing the Shabbat to remember how God rested that day of the seventh day of the creation of the world. That's the historical reason. But like I am dedicating, for the past 2 or 3 days, we discuss beautiful messages from Sefer Haredim and the Musar and the Gemara and the Zohar. And what is the purpose of all those messages? How to strengthen the bonding with God. You know what the Zohar HaKadosh says? Do you know how we can truly say if a person honors God and a person respects God? Shabbat. And Baruch Hashem, we see it. How do we dress on Shabbat? Better than during the week.
Special suit.
Special suit in honor of Shabbat. Even though I wear suit and tie every day of my life, almost.
You have a Shabbat suit.
I have a Shabbat suit. Sure, come to my closet. Or better, don't come to my closet. Yeah. Stay out of the closet. Right. Anyway, of course, I have a talet for Shabbat. I have a suit for Shabbat. And I'm sure many people do the same. You see people coming with a koracha for Shabbat, people coming with a nice jacket, a nice shirt, nice pair of shoes. This is something that we show the honor of HaKadosh Baruch Hu as well. And the Zohar HaKadosh says, how do I honor the Shabbat? I did read several suggestions of the Zohar, which I will tell you one thing. The message is not pick one of them. The message is make sure to do all of them, including welcoming the Shabbat on time. Sometimes people come late to the synagogue on a Friday night, Shabbat. They come in when the kahal is saying Lecha Dodi. Occasionally, it happens. Definitely, what is the procedure if the kahal is saying Lecha Dodi and a person came late into the synagogue and needs to do mincha? What is the procedure? You know what the procedure is? You need to do mincha outside of the room. You cannot do mincha inside of the main sanctuary. Why? Because you're causing a spiritual short circuit. The entire congregation is saying, Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala. Everybody's welcoming the Shabbat. And what do you say? Barech Aleinu, Ata Honen. In other words, everybody is praying towards the Shabbat, and that person is doing the tefillah of Hol. And this is actually, in practical, halakha matters. That's why there is another halakha that says that a person must finish working from the moment of mincha. Now, The Gemara, I need to clarify this. When the halakha says the moment of mincha, it doesn't mean what time is mincha at the synagogue. That's not what it means. It means from the moment that a person is allowed to do mincha. And as a good Jew, how do you answer that question? With another question. Which mincha are we talking about? The early mincha or the regular mincha? If it's the early mincha, today's schedule, you should not be in your office past 1 o'clock in the afternoon. If you follow the next more lenient opinion, 3 o'clock. So mincha gedolah, it's usually half an hour after the halachic noon time of the day, and mincha ketana is approximately 2 to 2.5 hours before sunset. So what is the halakha is telling us? That let's say today Shabbat in Miami is at 5:15, by 3 o'clock I should start heading home, and even before. Why? Because there is always a certain level of adrenaline that takes over the body of the person on a Friday afternoon. I don't want to call it stress level, the opposite. But adrenaline that a person says, you do all these things, and then we always come running till the last minute before Shabbat. That is the reason why, even though the Zohar doesn't bring it today, but I'll throw it into the table, the Zohar, the halakha writes that on a Friday afternoon, a person needs to make every effort to avoid mahloket at home, to avoid arguments in the home between husband and wife and the parents and the children. Why? Because sometimes, let's be honest here, the husband comes and he says to the wife, did you put the water out? Did you put the hot water? No. Did you shut off the lights? No. Did you put on the thermostat? No. So first of all, let's be honest here. Preparing the home for Shabbat, it is not the sole obligation of the wife. The husband also must be involved in the preparations of Shabbat. Several weeks ago, we discussed the concept of candle lighting. Remember that halakha that we learned on a Friday? Hazaku Baruch, that the husband should prepare the candles in honor of the wife. And the halakha also mentioned, Ibn Ishai says, that you should prepare a few coins of charity so the wife can give before candle lighting. Because the moment of candle lighting is a very auspicious and special moment for the Jewish mothers and the Jewish wives. But that's not the only thing you can do at home on a Friday afternoon. You can handle the thermostat. You can handle the hot water urn. You can handle to shut off the lights on the fridge, put the fridge in a Shabbat mode. These are small things. You don't want to cook? I'm sure your wife doesn't want you to cook at home neither. Okay? But if you need to mop and to sweep the floor, what's wrong with that? You're doing it Lichvot Shabbat Kodesh. And this is something that there is no shame to do it. The Gemara tells us a list of at least 10 of the greatest Hachamim of the generation of the Talmud, how each one of them was doing one thing. One fellow was dicing these vegetables to make an Israeli salad for Shabbat. Another one will sweep the floor. Another one will rearrange the furniture. Another one will go to the field, chop down the wood in order to have fire in honor of Shabbat. Another one was in charge of doing pickle tongue. Another one to clean the animal's head in order to have some meat in honor of Shabbat, whatever the Gemara tradition was in those days. But now the Zohar brings a very powerful message. Amen. Which is required for Shabbat. It's not Chaim Tovim. It's not a suggestion, but is required. The Zohar Kadosh brings a pasuk from Yeshaya HaNavi that is part of the Shabbat morning Kiddush. The Zohar says, Bedaver Davar, part of the holiness and the sanctity and the observance of Shabbat is not only the ceremonial aspect. A lot of the things that I mentioned had to do with the ceremonial aspect of Shabbat. Who doesn't like a Shabbat dinner? Who doesn't like a Shabbat family dinner? Who doesn't like to invite people in the night of Shabbat Kodesh to honor and to celebrate the Shabbat? A lot of people, even though that they may not have a proper Shabbat observance with the way the halakha encourages and the way the halakha tells us, celebrate Friday night dinner. They call it Friday night dinner. We call it Shabbat dinner. Amen. But the Zohar brings two words which are required for the sanctity of the Shabbat. The Zohar says, Bedaver davar. Pasuk from Yeshaya HaNavi, which means that observing the Shabbat, it's also determined by the speech. Not by the length of the rabbi's speech. By the way that a person speaks in honor of Shabbat. And I'm not talking about clean language or foul language. God forbid. That is forbidden any moment of the day, any day of the week, any instant of your life, the way the Gemara tells us in Masechet Shabbat. But the Zohar says that divrei hol b'Shabbat, the topics which are not suitable for Shabbat. For example, business. That's an easy one to understand. Investments, real estate, somebody approaches you and he tells you, how much is the rent in your building? How much a unit goes in your building? Do you have any deals for in your building? Maybe the question is simple, but the answer will be complicated. So what should be our answer? Somebody approaches us. After Shabbat, I'll give you a whole shiur. It's like sometimes people approach me to speak, to ask a question in the middle of the Amidah, in the middle of the Hazara, and you see me. What do I do to them? We'll speak after. Let the tefillah finish, and then I can speak to you. Time allowing. And if it's something sensitive and that requires more than 2 or 3 minutes, see me after the class. So the Zohar Kadosh says as follows. Don't minimize the words of conversation, because the words that a person speaks, and this is not only on the Lashon Hara department or on the clean language department, but the Zohar says every time a person speaks, but especially on Shabbat, the words fly up to the heavens. The Zohar Kadosh writes, "Shadibur hol ole lema'ala." What happens with the words that we speak? What happens? Have you heard Gone with the Wind? No? Good. Me neither. But I heard this as a child. Gone with the Wind. That is a Zohar message of today. That the words that a person says, they don't go to the recycling bin. They don't go to the waste basket. Where they go, the Zohar Kadosh says, Olim lema'ala. They go straight up. And what happens when they go straight up? It says they have the power of activating things. You know, action, reaction. A good word brings positive reaction. A negative word, the opposite. Like we discussed the other day. The concept of rebuking someone, right? Or reprimanding someone. You do it properly, you do it out of love, you do it respectfully, the person will be willing to listen. But if we do it in a negative way, in a derogatory way, in a condescending way, you think the person is going to listen? So the Zohar Kadosh writes, and it says that the words of hol, the words of mundane matters on Shabbat, it's also one of the ways that a person can minimize the sanctity and the holiness of the Shabbat. And the Zohar concludes with a very simple parable. Imagine yourself, the Zohar says, man de mazmin ushpiza. Imagine yourself, you invite a guest to your home for Shabbat. How you're going to treat the guest that comes to your home? Obviously, in the most proper and respectful way. But can you imagine, the Zohar says, if you tell the guest, have a seat on the Shabbat table, and then you go to the Florida room, you put your feet on the ottoman, and you read a newspaper, and you leave the guest alone by the table. How do you think that guest will feel? Embarrassed, abandoned, neglected, uncomfortable, or inviting me to eat and you leave me hanging? That's basically what the Zohar Kadosh says. Mishemazmin oreach, a person that welcomes a guest to the home. You need to attend to your guest. Belo davar aher, and nothing else. What is the nimshal? The Zohar tells us that Shabbat is a guest that's staying with us for 25 hours. Take care of the guest. And that guest doesn't bother us much. The guest allows us to sleep, to eat, to drink. But when it comes to talking, the guest wants to be involved. This reminds me what we learned a few weeks ago. The Pelei Yoez writes, or Rabbi Chaim Palach, either one of them write, that when you welcome a guest at home, don't burden them with your problems. You follow me? You have a guest, take care of the guest. Make sure that the guest leaves your home, not only with a full stomach, in a happy mode. If you need to speak to him, and you invite him and you tell him, listen, I need to talk to you, I have XYZ situation, that's a different story. There is the conceived notion, okay, I'm here to listen to a situation. But if you're sitting down to eat with your friend, with your guest, and then he asks you, how things by you? And then you give him a whole Megillat Esther of how things are by you. The guy said, Uli, but if you say Baruch Hashem, I have no problem. Right. So I think that the Zohar, it's very clear, short perhaps, 25 minutes only. But I think that the message is very practical and very essential. Why? Because Shabbat, as I said before, it's a whole mindset. It's a whole mindset. And that's why, there is a slogan that we have heard for years already, disconnect to connect. Today people have huge temptations with the cell phone. And the temptations, I'm not referring about immorality, God forbid, but I'm talking about sleeping with the cell phone. Okay? Somebody says, if people will love the Torah as they love the cell phone, Mashiach will be here already. And it's true. It is true. I'm included in that equation as well. So thank God, Baruch Hashem, Shabbat comes, and what do? Disconnect. Don't put it on vibrate. Shut it off. Because if you put it on vibrate, the Yetzer Hara is going to make sure the phone vibrates a lot. And then you're going to start asking yourself, what if it's an emergency? What if something is happening? What if Mashiach came? Mashiach doesn't need a cell phone on Shabbat. Mashiach comes, everybody's going to hear, like it or not. And definitely, I will tell you this, to finish in a positive note. The celebration of Hanukkah, it's a key moment in the Jewish calendar for Mashiach to come. It's actually a blessing that we're going to say when we light the Hanukkah. What are we going to say? She'asa nisim la'avotenu bayamim ahem bazeman hazeh. Every time we say this paragraph, if it's Hanukkah or if it's Purim, you know what exactly we are doing? In a way, we are invoking Hashem's infinite mercy to reactivate the miracle. What does it mean? There is a Torah concept known as Et Rason. Et Rason means the moment of goodwill, the moment of acceptance. For example, we say Shabbat afternoon when we open the ark, Va'ani tefillati lecha Hashem et ratzon. I'm praying to you, dear God, in the moment of acceptance. As the Gemara, How do I know when is the proper moment of acceptance? At what time is the moment of acceptance? The Gemara gives a fascinating answer. The Gemara says, B'sha'a she'atzibur mitpalelim. The moment that the kahal prays together as a minyan, you have guaranteed delivery. Guaranteed delivery. This is on a regular basis. But when it comes to Hanukkah and Purim, what was the miracle of Hanukkah? The victory of the few. If we can open up quickly, just to warm up a bit about Hanukkah, let's read quickly the Al HaNisim. Al HaNisim is an added paragraph that, God willing, we are going to be saying Hanukkah. Hanukkah, remember, we're going to have Hallel every day. Sefer Torah every day. Next Shabbat, Rosh Chodesh, Hanukkah, 3 Sefer Torahs. Yes, 3 Sefers we're going to have next Shabbat. Something that doesn't happen often. A great zechut. But what do we say? She'asita la'abotenu bayamim ahem bazeman hazeh. We are reliving the miracle that Hashem did for our forefathers in these days by that time. And then we add a special paragraph describing how was the victory of Hanukkah. The victory of Hanukkah from a physical perspective didn't make any sense. We were in a huge disadvantage. A handful of yeshiva students waged a war against the mighty Greek Empire. And we know, Masarta Giborim Beyat Halashim, you deliver the mighty in the hands of the weak. Rabim Beyat Me'atim, the many in the hands of the few. Urshaim Beyat Tzadikim, the evils delivered in the hands of the righteous. Utmeim Beyat Tehorim, and the impure in the hands of the pure. Bezedim Beyad Oske Toratecha, and the rebels against God in the hands of the Torah learners. So imagine the miracles. And the Pasuk says, Ulamecha Yisrael Asita, and to the Jewish people you perform Teshu'ah Gedolah, a great redemption, a great salvation, Kehayom Hazeh, like today. From here our rabbis teach us that the celebration of Hanukkah is a key date for Mashiach to come. Especially that Hanukkah means all about the reinauguration of the service in the Beit HaMikdash. So whatever we commemorate in Hanukkah, in a way will be something that will happen when Mashiach comes. That Am Israel will succeed, that the Torah will flourish, that the enemies will diminish, that the impurity will disappear, and we'll see miracles and wonders all around. Guess what? Mashiach's arrival is Hanukkah, to a certain extent. Mashiach's arrival actually is even greater than Hanukkah, because after Hanukkah, we had a couple of years of harmony and peace, but regretfully, later on, the second temple was destroyed. But when it comes to Mashiach's arrival, it will be a one-way ticket. We're not going back, in the sense of no more all the negative things that regretfully happen a bit later after the conclusion of the celebration of Hanukkah. So, we'll talk a few minutes about the basic laws of Hanukkah, just to warm up a bit on the celebration of Hanukkah. And Be'ezat Hashem, effective Sunday, will devote every day, Beli Neder, a few minutes about the celebration of Hanukkah. The ideal way to celebrate Hanukkah is by using olive oil, because that in a way mimics the lighting of the Hanukkah, or the menorah rather, in the Beit HaMikdash. Although candles are allowed to be used for the Hanukkah, but ideally will be oil, because this is what truly represents the miracle. Not only that, The Kaf HaHaim writes that when you fill up the oil of the menorah, you should add at the bottom a bit of water. Not to save oil, because the more water you put, the less oil you put. It's not for saving purposes. Although, as long as you have oil that burns for 30 minutes, you fulfill the mitzvah. There is no obligation for the menorah to remain lit throughout the entire night. Although that is wonderful and that is beautiful, but from a halachic perspective, after the 30 minutes the menorah was lit, you fulfill the mitzvah according to all opinions. Although there is one Hasidic tradition that the Hanukkah remains lit for 50 minutes, but halachically, 30 minutes is sufficient. If you buy from the kosher markets or the Judaica stores the pre-filled cups of oil, some of them are real liquid, or some of them come in a gelatin form that is basically olive oil that has been congealed, is not a halachic problem at all. Because it's olive oil, once it starts igniting, gradually the oil will become liquidy and you fulfill the mitzvah in the most proper and suitable way. But the Kaf HaHaim writes and it says that there is a message when it comes to the water, the oil, and the fire. All of the three elements, water, oil, and fire, represent Torah. Water is Torah, Shemen is Torah and Irat Shamayim, and the fire is the Chokhmah of the person. Godliness is connected to fire. What is the meaning connected to fire? The nature of fire is completely the opposite of what water is. Water usually trickles down, and water is very calm, very stable, and fire always aims to go up and higher and higher and higher. The volume of water can be diminished when it's shared with others. The volume of fire doesn't get diminished. If we have a candle and 100 people take fire from it, the flame will remain the same. If I have a cup of water and I need to split it with 4 people, it means that everybody will have a little bit of water. Hence the concept of the fire. Water en mayim el la Torah. And oil represents the chokhmah, the wisdom of the person. Where we should place the menorah. I know that many people are watching, and Sunday the IT department is on a sabbatical, so I'm speaking about it now. Where we should put the menorah. So in Hanukkah, there is a halachic concept known as Pirsum Hanes, the publication of the miracle. We publicize the miracle. You see that some people have the custom of putting a menorah on top of their cars. Have you seen that in your country? Okay, it happens all over the world today. Very nice. You go to the malls, you go to the condominiums. What do you see? A menorah. Now, why Gentiles light menorot? Or why malls put menorot? Not because you have the Xmas trees, then you put a menorah because they are connected. Haz v'shalom. But in Hanukkah, there is a concept of publicizing the miracle, showing the world how Hashem was good to us, and a miracle was performed, and we survive. And you need to understand this. As I said yesterday or the day before, Hanukkah is a celebration of spiritual survival. Can you imagine, God forbid, if the miracle of Hanukkah will have not happened, the Jewish people will have been gone from the world. Hanukkah, 2,100 years ago, give or take. A few years, like 200 years before the destruction of the Second Temple. Second Temple was destroyed 1,950 years ago. So more or less, we're talking about 21 to 2,100 years ago, to 2,200 years ago. So now, the question is then, how do I fulfill this commandment of publicizing the miracle? In Israel, the tradition is to place the menorah outside of the home.
Outside?
Outside. They sell special containers that protects the oil, and the flame keeps flickering. Not everybody does it, but it's available. I've seen it with my own eyes. Many people put it in front of the mezuzah. Many people put it in the balcony. And all these locations are halachically valid. It all depends on your particular situation. What does it mean? Let's say that you live in a ground level home and people walk in front of the home, or people drive in front of the home, and people will be able to see the menorah. In that case, you put it by the window. But let's say you live in a building that faces the water, meaning to say no one is watching, no one will see. In that case, you put it in front of the mezuzah. So you have the mezuzah on one doorpost, the menorah on another doorpost, and you have your sisit katan on top of you. The Ben Ish Hai says, now you have 3 mitzvot surrounding you. The sisit in your body, the mezuzah on one side, the menorah on the other. If you take these 3 mitzvot, sisit, Hanukkah, mezuzah, it gives you the word tzemach. Et tzemach David avdecha meherat tasmiyah. The flourishing of King David that will flourish speedily. So what do you understand? That these 3 mitzvot combined can expedite Mashiach's arrival. But what happens now if you do not live in a waterfront apartment? Your apartment faces another condominium. You know what the halakha says? If the people from across the street, the other building, can't see your menorah, put it in the window. So that you have pirsume nisa. If you have a mezuzah, excellent. It all depends on your situation. Where I put the Hanukkah, since we moved in the apartment recently, so it's different. I put it in the window, but a window that does not have a mezuzah, because it's a window in the wall, but everybody is able to see it. If you drive, you see it. If you walk, you see it. And if you live across the street from me, you see it. So that is a great location. And including myself, when I drive sometimes at night, I look up. That's how I know that if you drive, you're able to see it. Now, the Pirsume Nisa department, the publication of the publicizing of the miracle, it also applies to your wife and children. Meaning to say, let's say you live in a home, in a private complex, and nobody from the outside sees, and no cars drive, because you live in the cul-de-sac, and that's your home in the corner. So then you put it inside of the home, across from the mezuzah, and the halakha encourages that the menorah lighting should be done together with the family. The husband usually will be the one that says the berachot. The first night of Hanukkah, we recite 3 blessings. L'adlik ner Hanukkah, she'asa nisim and she'eheyanu, correct? And the second night onward, you say only 2 berachot. Additionally, after we light the menorah, the Sephardic tradition is after we light the first candle. The Ashkenazic tradition is to wait till all the candles for that night had been lit, and then they say, Hanerot halalu anu madlikin, the special paragraph that is in all prayer books. Then we say, Mizmor Shir Hanukat Habayit LeDavid, special chapter of Tehillim. Then we say, many people have the Kabbalistic custom of saying 7 times chapter 91 of Tehillim, because this is a chapter of protection. And people sing Ma'osur, the famous song, Ma'osur Yeshuati, which that song, Beli Neder, remind me next week, one day, we'll learn the song to understand what is the meaning of this song. But I give you a free sample. The song of Ma'osur Yeshuati is a poem written about the history of the Jewish people, the challenges and the salvation. That's why in Ma'asur you find Paro's name. In Ma'asur you will find different historical events that ended up in a happy occasion, ended up in a miracle. Now, Ma'oz means the strength. Tzur is the rock of my strength. Hashem, Yeshuati, is my salvation. Lecha na'eh leshabeach. To you is beautiful to praise. This is the opening statement of Ma'asur. There are 6 very small paragraphs, but each one is a different historical timeline of Am Israel since the moment that we left Egypt till the miracle of Hanukkah, etc. Now, the Hanukkah or the candles to remain lit for half an hour. No more than that. Meaning to say, if you're going to use, for example, a made in China candle, the 99-cent candles, make sure that they last half an hour. You know, the box, very colorful, right? Made in China, I think, right? Make sure that they last 30 minutes. If they don't last 30 minutes, that may be a halachic problem. So if you don't have that, buy a better candle or use tea lights. But as I said a few moments ago, the ideal way of celebrating, of lighting the Hanukkah is with oil. You can use a tea light, just make sure that they are all on the same level. This is an important requirement. Everybody, a few times already people ask me, can I buy this menorah? Can I buy that menorah? So I give you a basic rule of menorah. The light of the menorah, they all need to be on the same level. Meaning to say, let me do this quickly. Let's say you have a menorah that has different heights. Okay? That is not valid. The menorah needs to be like this. Okay? And yes, you may have the shamash on the corner to the left or to the right or in the center. But as long as the candles are in the same level, you are in good shape. So, concerning the question of the professor here, the shamosh always will be higher or outside of the Hanukkah. The shamosh is the helper that I can take fire from because I'm not allowed halachically to derive benefit from the candles. Because the pasuk says, "Hanerot alalu kodeshem, ben lanu reshut leishtamesh bahem, ela lir'otam bilvad." I cannot use them. I look at them and I think in my mind of the miracles that Hashem made for us. Tea lights. Tea lights, it depends who you follow. Sephardic tradition, at least in this part of the world, we light the shamash last. Ashkenazic tradition lights the shamash first, and from the shamash they take the fire. There is a Syrian tradition that every night of Hanukkah they add an extra candle outside of the Hanukkah. In other words, you light the first night, you light one, but outside of the Hanukkah, you add another one. Why? To remind the family of the miracle of survival post the Inquisition, Spanish Inquisition. Because depends. Both of opinions are accurate. That's not a problem at all. You light the shamosh. The purpose of the shamosh is that we can use the fire in order to light the Hanukkah. Now, Sunday morning we'll discuss that. I'll try to bring a menorah so we can do the real class showing exactly how to light it. What else? Tea lights. Tea lights, I'm sure you know what is this. Imagine yourself, let me have that kupa, please, a minute. That charity box. Thank you so much. So tea light is something similar to this, much smaller, round, that has a metal base, very thin, and has a candle. That candle lasts 2 hours. So let's say the children have a menorah. You went to the kosher market, or it was very late at night, and you have tea lights. As long as you put them next to each other in the proper order, the mitzvah is fulfilled. Yes, because this is how it was in the time of the Bet HaMikdash. So what do you do in the shamash? Put it behind or put it in front? Or a bit higher, right? What? I mean, you can do that, but the second one will not be able to be lit. And all of them need to be uniform. Thank you so much. These are tea lights. Yes, you can. Yes, 100%. Good, Professor? But let's clarify. This is not the ideal. This is a backup plan. The idea is oil, if you can. Shabbat oil is the same, yeah, olive oil. Okay, my good friends, I think that we're going to let everybody go. Getting ready, Lichvot Shabbat Kodesh, Ba'ezat Hashem. May the happiness or the celebration of Hanukkah brings happiness and the redemption for all of Am Yisrael. Amen. ברוך אדוני לעולם, אמן ואמן. רבי חנניה בן הקשיא אומר, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את ישראל לפיכך, הרבה להן תורה מצוות שנאמר, אדוני חפץ למען צדקו, יגדיל תורה וידיר, קדיש. אמן. אמן. השם אל הבא מברך. آمين يا عالم آمين يهلنا آمين بريم يا سلام آمين آمين